Section 1. A glimmering facade. Tehran, in the mid-1970s. Tehran, in the mid-1970s, presented a dazzling spectacle of ambition and transformation. A city hurtling toward a future envisioned by its monarch, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The boulevards were becoming congested with imported American cars, imported European cars, their chrome reflecting the neon lights. New cinemas, new hotels, new boutiques. The air hummed with the sounds of construction as skyscrapers reached for the sky, symbols of a nation fueled by a torrent of oil wealth. This was the era of the Great Civilization, the Shah's grand promise to propel Iran into the ranks of the world's most developed nations within a generation. He poured billions into infrastructure, industry, and a formidable military, seeking to restore the glory of the ancient Persian Empire in a modern, westernized form. This program of rapid modernization, known as the White Revolution, brought tangible changes to parts of Iranian society. Literacy rates improved, universities expanded, a new urban middle class emerged, eager to embrace the consumer culture and social freedoms that were becoming more visible in the capital. Women gained more access to education, and the state promoted a secular public life. To an outside observer, or even to a resident of affluent North Tehran, Iran appeared to be on an unstoppable upward trajectory, a stable and prosperous ally of the West in a volatile region. The Shah's court was a glamorous affair, hosting international dignitaries and celebrities, projecting an image of sophistication and power. Behind this glittering veneer, however, a different reality was taking shape for millions of Iranians. The oil boom created vast disparities in wealth, concentrating fortunes in the hands of a small elite connected to the royal court, while leaving many others behind. As people migrated from rural villages to cities like Tehran in search of work, they often found themselves in overcrowded, underserviced slums, struggling with soaring inflation that eroded their meager wages. The Shah's land reforms disrupted traditional agricultural life, pushing countless farmers off their land and into the urban proletariat. This growing class of dispossessed and economically insecure citizens felt alienated from the state's grand vision. The cultural changes were just as jarring for a large segment of the population. The influx of Western films, music, and fashion was perceived by many not as progress, but as a Westoxification, a cultural plague that was corrupting Iran's deep-rooted Islamic and national identity. The sight of mini-skirts, liquor-serving establishments clashed profoundly with the conservative values held by the traditional bazaar merchants, the clergy, and the urban poor. They saw the Shah's project as a forced imposition of foreign norms that disrespected their faith and way of life. This cultural and economic friction created a vast reservoir of quiet resentment. Section 3. The Voice from Exile. Khomeini's Rising Influence. Among the many clerical voices of opposition, one rose to prominence with uncompromising clarity and moral authority: Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. A respected scholar and teacher from the holy city of Qom, Khomeini had been a fierce critic of the Shah since the early 1960s. He had openly condemned the White Revolution and the granting of diplomatic immunity to American military personnel. His fiery speeches led to his arrest and, in 1964, his forced exile from Iran. This act, intended to silence him, would paradoxically amplify his voice and make him a symbol of resistance. From his exile, first in Turkey, then in Najaf, Iraq, Khomeini continued his relentless campaign against the Shah. He developed and refined his political philosophy, Velayat-e-Faqih, the guardianship of the Islamic jurist. It argued that in the absence of the hidden 12th Imam, the most learned and just jurists should assume political leadership. This directly challenged the legitimacy of monarchy and proposed an Islamic alternative. His writings and lectures were smuggled into Iran, offering a clear vision for a post-monarchical state. Section 4. The Unraveling. A year of protest and bloodshed. The killings in Qom in January 1978 ignited a chain reaction that the Shah's regime could not contain. Following the Shia tradition of holding memorial services for the dead on the 40th day of their passing, protesters gathered in the city of Tabriz 40 days after the Qom massacre. This demonstration also turned violent when police opened fire, creating a new set of martyrs. This cycle repeated itself every 40 days, with each memorial service sparking a new protest in a different city, each one larger and more defiant than the last. What began as a student protest in a single city rapidly grew into a nationwide movement, spreading from Isfahan to Shiraz, Tehran to Mashhad, drawing in workers, merchants, and people from all walks of life. The chants in the streets evolved as the year progressed. Initially, protesters called for the implementation of the 1906 Constitution and a reduction in the Shah's powers. But as the state's response grew more brutal, the demands became more radical. Slogans like independence, freedom, Islamic Republic began to dominate the demonstrations, and posters of the exiled Ayatollah Khomeini became ubiquitous. The movement was gaining a clear leader and a clear objective: the complete overthrow of the monarchy. The Shah, who was reportedly battling cancer and increasingly isolated from his people, seemed incapable of understanding the depth of the popular anger, vacillating between offering minor concessions and ordering violent crackdowns. The point of no return arrived on September 8, 1978, a day that would be seared into the national consciousness as Black Friday. The day before, the Shah had declared martial law in Tehran and other major cities, banning all demonstrations. Unaware or defiant, thousands of protesters gathered in Jala Square in the capital. Faced with a complete breakdown of order and with his own health failing, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi finally acknowledged his defeat. His American allies saw him as a liability and gently nudged him toward the exit. He appointed Shapur Bakhtiar as prime minister in a last-ditch civilian government effort. On January 16, 1979, the Shah and Empress Farah boarded a plane at Mehrabad Airport. He announced he was leaving for a vacation and medical treatment. As the plane lifted off, he was seen at the controls, flying himself out of the country he had ruled for 37 years. He would never return. The news triggered an explosion of joy across Iran. People poured into the streets, honking car horns, dancing, handing out sweets. Statue of the Shah toppled. Statue of Reza Shah toppled. Statues smashed in public squares, marking the end of the Pahlavi dynasty. Bakhtiar's government was in an untenable position, despised by revolutionaries, distrusted by royalists. His pleas for calm and promises of free elections were ignored. All eyes were on Ayatollah Khomeini. From exile in Paris, he denounced Bakhtiar's government as illegitimate. He declared he would soon return to establish a true Islamic government. After weeks of tense negotiations, Bakhtiar closed the country's airports, then reopened them under immense public pressure. The moment arrived. On February 1, 1979, an Air France charter carrying Ayatollah Khomeini landed in Tehran. His return was a spectacle of unparalleled scale. An estimated 5 million people lined the route from the airport to Behesht-e-Zahra Cemetery, where he delivered his first speech on Iranian soil in over 14 years. The crowd was so immense, he completed the final leg by helicopter. His presence electrified the nation. It signaled the final transfer of power to revolutionary forces.
At the cemetery among martyrs' graves, Khomeini made his intentions clear. He fiercely denounced the Bakhtiar government. "I will appoint my own government. I will strike this government in the mouth."
It was a direct challenge to the last remnants of the old state. He declared the monarchy corrupt and illegitimate, serving foreign interests. He vowed to establish a government based on Islamic principles to serve the oppressed. His return marked the beginning of the revolution's most decisive and transformative phase, with its de facto leader now on Iranian soil, ready to shape its future. With Ayatollah Khomeini back in Iran, the dual-power situation between the official government of Prime Minister Bakhtiar and the revolutionary movement could not last. Khomeini quickly established a provisional revolutionary government, headed by the respected moderate politician Mehdi Bazargan. For 10 days, from February 1st to February 11th, Iran had two rival governments. Street clashes erupted between revolutionary militias, known as comites, and the last loyalist units of the army, particularly the elite Imperial Guard. On February 11, 1979, the armed forces declared neutrality and returned to barracks. Without the backing of the military, Shapur Bakhtiar's government instantly dissolved. Revolutionary forces took over television and radio stations, government buildings and military bases, securing their control over the state apparatus. The 2,500-year-old history of monarchy in Iran had come to an abrupt and definitive end. The day is still celebrated in Iran as the victory of the revolution. Having dismantled the old order, the revolutionary leadership moved quickly to legitimize the new one. In a move to demonstrate popular consent, Khomeini called for a national referendum. The ballot, a green yes ballot, and a red no ballot left starkly plain. The results were overwhelming. The state declared that over 98% had voted for an Islamic republic. This date was immediately declared the first day of the government of God. The next crucial task was to create a constitution. The Assembly of Experts drafted a unique hybrid, blending a modern republic with the novel concept of Velayat-e-Faqih. It established an elected president and parliament, the Majlis, but vested ultimate authority in a non-elected supreme leader. The Faqih, command of the armed forces, control over the judiciary, and veto and dismissal powers. Alongside, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was created. Revolutionary courts dispensed swift, often brutal justice. The December referendum approved the new constitution, cementing the theocratic power structure. This process marginalized the secular, liberal, leftist allies. Many were arrested, forced into exile, or executed in the purges that followed. The new Islamic Republic defined itself in sharp opposition to foreign powers. This anti-American feeling peaked on November 4, 1979. Radical students overran the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. They took 52 American diplomats and staff hostage. The Iran hostage crisis lasted 444 agonizing days. It dominated international headlines and hardened Western views of Iran. The crisis crippled Jimmy Carter's presidency. The hostages were released on January 20, 1981. Their release came just after Ronald Reagan's inauguration. In September 1980, Saddam Hussein invaded Iran. He sought oil-rich territory, regional dominance, and feared Iran's revolutionary Shia ideology. Instead of collapsing, Iran rallied. The Iran-Iraq War lasted 8 brutal years.